Okay, Shabbat Shalom, Mishpacha. This is Hakohen. Okay, so I think we've got 10 minutes. We might as well make a start. Rabbi Kefa's in the room, as is Rabbi Zachariah and Rabbi Hananiah. Shabbat Shalom to you, Gadol, a high holy day. Today is our solar Passover. As you know that the lunar version of the Passover day started earlier in the week. I believe it was March 26, 27, around those days. And the Easter, as you know, Christians normally celebrate the Easter on the Sunday, which is coming up tomorrow. So we're kind of, now, just to give you a brief, that this discussion about when the Passover should be, I think we've had this discussion a number of times before. But just to give you a brief, that it was the Sadducees. Now, you do read about two types of people in the books of the New Testament. One types are called the Pharisees, and one type are called the Sadducees. But if you've ever been to church, and some of you probably come out of the churches, and you've been to churches, and you never get explained who are the Sadducees and who are the Pharisees. All you get to hear, really, the Christians, they paint a big broad picture, and they say that Paul was a Pharisee before he became a Christian. They kind of tell you that, which is nothing less than a contradiction, because Paul was a Pharisee and remained a Pharisee. But having said that, what does Pharisee mean? Pharisee simply means he was like a rabbi, a teacher who would be teaching the Torah. He was a bit like somebody who sits in a synagogue. That's what a Pharisee is. And so what is a Sadducee? A Sadducee is somebody who is part of the priesthood. He's part of the Levite family. So that's a Sadducee. So this is a kind of division. And, we can look at some of the stuff in the New Testament to get a bit more understanding of the terms and conditions of what was being explained at the time, 2,000 years ago. Because a lot of people today are making the mistakes of trying to understand the New Testament literally, and it cannot be understood literally, because the things in there are not literal. It speaks a lot of symbolic language, and symbolic language has been used opposed to literally by many people, and they end up making all sorts of mistakes because none of those things can be proven. When I say none of those things, I'm talking about some items, some things that are spoken about. For instance, Jesus walking on water. Jesus of Nazareth walking on water. Can you prove it? Can anybody today scientifically prove it? Can we show somebody walking on water and say this is how it was done? There is no way you can prove that. So there's a lot of language. The ancient language was Aramaic, that was spoken, Hebrew, Aramaic, a mixture with the Greek mixture. So you cannot prove one way or the other. So you'll be scratching your head and arguing with people, and they'll be arguing with you, and the twain can't meet. Why? Because one person doesn't accept the other person's arguments, or criticisms, if you want to call it criticisms, or debates, if you want to call it debates. Either way, it doesn't really matter. I listened to a debate last week, I believe it was. Somebody sent me a link to a debate that happened in the East, and it was regarding Isaiah 53. And when I heard that debate, I was, I don't really do debates myself any longer, as you know, because they don't really get anywhere. And secondly, my understanding is far beyond the debater's understanding, because they're still stuck with the literal, and I'm not into the literal. I can go both ways, and I can prove one way or the other that what they understand is wrong. So the debater was trying to prove, one debater was Muslim and the other debater was Christian. So the Christian was trying to prove that Isaiah 53 belongs to Jesus, The only problem was that when he started to quote history, he got his history upside down. So he was quoting, I believe he was quoting one of the scholars, and one of the ancient Greek scholars. It may have been Plato, and if you check, if it was Plato, which is considered a Greek scholar, and Plato, I would probably say, lived. Here's the interesting part. This is where it became funny. I kind of chuckled when I heard the debate. He said that Plato confirmed Jesus' death and resurrection, yet Plato lived 400 years before Jesus' death and resurrection. So he got his history a little bit mixed up. Maybe he was trying to quote somebody else and he mentioned Plato. And a similar thing happened with the Muslim as well. He quoted something that was out of date, in that although he had the stronger side of the debate, but he quoted a passage in history also out of context, where he quoted a history that occurred after Jesus' death and not before, vice versa kind of thing. So it was kind of mixed like that. And somebody said to me that this is Jewish theology, and for this Jewish theology, a Jew should be present. Not, it shouldn't be debated between Christian and Muslim, because they're wasting their time. They've got nobody from the Jewish side to say, this is what we believe, or yes, we don't believe in this, etc. So the Muslim was more in favorable of the Jewish side, whereas the Christian was more in favorable of the Christian side, but he was just using the wrong data to prove his point. And like I said, the twain can't meet. So I listened to the debate. It was about an hour debate on each side, and I found that both sides made their points. I believe that the Muslim made stronger points. Christian made points which appeared to be stronger, but they were weak, and they were false. This theology was totally wrong. And this is what we find in churches today, that the churches, they mean to do good, but they actually end up doing bad, because they quote you something from the New Testament which means something totally different to what they're telling you. And I was talking to somebody, and I was saying that I went to a chapel years ago. I went to a chapel in London, and I was sitting there, and this pastor over there, I went there a few times, this pastor over there would always quote one particular passage at the beginning of the sermon, and that was always Hebrews 9:27. And Hebrews 9:27 said there's appointed unto man to die once, and then there's a judgment. And this is quite interesting, because at the time I wasn't familiar. When the first time I sat there, I didn't even know what the heck is a book of Hebrews. What the hell is it? So it's like, anyway, got myself hold of a Bible, and which was actually sent to me as a gift, and I opened it up at the book of Hebrews, and I saw it said, it is appointed unto men to die once, and then there's a judgment. Okay, so what does it mean? Does that mean that you're going to go to hell if you don't believe in Jesus? But that's what Christians teach. Or does that mean that you're going to go to heaven if you believe in Jesus? That's what Christians teach. Or does it mean that you're kind of stuck in the middle somewhere? So again, I'll come back to the point at hand. I'm a Kohen in the gate, and my understanding goes way beyond that understanding of heaven and hell. And this very topic, heaven and hell, was discussed by Yeshua, Jesus of Nazareth, and his disciples. He was, this point was argued by Pharisees and Sadducees, and the Sadducees said, we reject it, and the Sadducees were right for rejecting it. Whereas today, the predominant position of Christianity is that there is a heaven and hell. And yes, they can believe that literally. You can't stop somebody from believing that there's a hell and there's a heaven, because their heaven and hell is on this earth. And I can prove it to you within the next 5 minutes. I can prove it that heaven and hell is on this earth and not up there somewhere else. Because look, if you died today, and let's just say alive, let's just say living. If you are living today and you went above the sky, and you kind of started to ascend up. Let's say you had some kind of a contraption, an engine or a rocket, or you bound yourself to, and you went up, or you went up in the spaceship. For argument's sake, the SpaceX, it's a living spaceship. What's his name? Elon Musk runs it, right? And it's a living thing. And if you sat in that spaceship and you went up, because it can carry people, then you're going to find that as soon as you cross the skies, there's a space. You can't breathe in the space. You got to carry equipment. You got to carry, a breathing apparatus, and you got to wear a special suit and other things. Okay, so my point, in the book of Acts, there is an angel that appears, and he kind of talks to the people on the ground. Let's call them disciples of Jesus. And he says to them, just as you saw Jesus ascend, because according to the literal reading, which I'll tell you is incorrect, because if you took the literal reading, no man can literally ascend up and end up in space and be able to survive that atmosphere. You know that, I know that, the whole world knows it, and nobody can prove it otherwise. Because if you debated with the people on the ground, you cannot prove that a man can go up, living man can fly up and be able to survive the atmosphere. It's very simple. It's a simple deduction. We don't have to argue about it. We all know it's true that no one can ascend up and be a survivor, because atmosphere doesn't allow it. We have oxygen here. As soon as we cross our skies, we lose oxygen. Therefore, if you were just going up without any apparatus, you would be dead. You cannot survive the atmosphere. So, is that passage in Acts talking literally, or is it talking symbolically? And if you really look at it, it cannot be talking literally. Why? Because if Jesus went up physically as a man who was able to breathe air just like us, who was able to eat and drink just like us, then he can't survive the atmosphere. But then the same book tells you that he will ascend likewise, meaning that the Jews today are expecting a baby to be born to become the Messiah. Well, if the Jews are expecting a baby from human parents, it might be Nakshan for all we know. He could be the next Messiah of Israel, right? Rabbi Kefa's son. So, if it's a baby, well, the baby has to be born through parents, human parents, and then that baby has to sit on the throne. Call it, Israel's throne for argument's sake. And so therefore the Jews are expecting that. Well, then if Jesus comes down, let's just assume that Jesus is going to come down literally, he's going to descend in the middle of Ohio today. I'm kind of paraphrasing and making it a little funny. Instead, let's just say he descends in Jerusalem, by the Damascus Gate. And those of you who've gone to Israel, you know where Damascus Gate is. What's that going to do? People are going to be, they're going to be shocked. A man's coming down alive from up there. Is that ever going to happen? You now need to ask yourself that definitive question. Is that ever going to happen? Are you going to see Jesus descending in Damascus Gate as a human being? One who can breathe, eat, live? And the answer is very obvious. Because the answer is so obvious, but I don't want to make it so obvious, because look, people have been waiting 2,000 years for that. And before his I would say his descension, because his descension hasn't happened yet, he hasn't come down yet, he's only ascended according to the book of Acts. He hasn't descended yet. Well, according to that book, if he's going to descend, and we didn't even have a Damascus Gate there. Let's go back to 700 CE. 637, the history tells us that the Muslims came to Jerusalem, and Jerusalem was a pile of rubbish. On the temple, they had placed all the Christians that were there. They were throwing rubbish on that place, what they call the temple area. And it was a pile of rubbish. And the Muslim conqueror comes and he says to the people, he says, you idiots, this is a holy place, and look what you're doing. You're putting all rubbish on there, your garbage. And he says, I'm taking over this place, and we're going to clean it up, and we're going to, take care of it, kind of thing. And so they take over, and they clean it up. They put a mosque on there, on one side, and they, kind of become in charge. And the Christians, they don't fight. The Christian archbishop that was there, he simply hands it over with agreement that, yes, our people haven't really looked after the place. Yes, they are idiots. They haven't cleaned, they haven't been cleaning the place, and they've just been, dumping their rubbish on there, the garbage. So that's kind of a little bit of the history side. Then the Muslims take over, and as you know, the history developed, and later, the Ottoman Empire, they had their battles with the Muslims that came from Iraq, and then we had the Crusaders come in the 1000 around the 1000 CE marker. Crusaders come in. You have Richard the Lion from England goes over and fights, and all these battles go on. But where is Jesus? How come Jesus still hasn't descended where he's supposed to have ascended? So clearly, you must be very careful how you take the New Testament literally, because you may end up in all sorts of problems with literal reading of it. But then you have a problem to justify that the same book of Revelation tells you that I come quickly as a thief in the night. So, I don't want to spend, hours and hours looking at those passages, but I will give you something to chew on today, being this a Passover. And also we have our symbols. We talk about the freedom that was brought to the nation of Israel, the children of Israel, at one point in history, sometime behind us. And then a lot of these things are symbolic now, and they are not literal either. Meaning that there's a lot of symbols in the Torah as well. So somebody asked a question in the debate, which I found kind of interesting. The debate, somebody asked a question, well, who decides? Who decides? They asked this question to the Christian, and I was kind of chuckling, listening to it. I thought, I really want to hear the answer to this. And the man asked the question, he was a Muslim man, he said, who decides what is symbolic and what is literal? And the man comes up, all this, shoulder square, and he comes up and he says, that's easy. The Christian man goes, that's easy. If you're educated, he goes, if you're educated, now listen to this funny answer. He goes, if you're educated, then you'll know what is symbolic and what is not. I just laughed. I said, oh, so all you need to do is go to university and get educated so you can read the Bible correctly. And I thought, that's far from the truth, isn't it? You can be educated to your PhD level, and you will still not know how to interpret the Bible. The Jews have been trying to do it for over 2,000 years, and they can't agree with themselves. 500 years before that, before the birth of Yeshua, Jesus, the Jews could not decide many things. Who is going to be the Messiah? And the Messiah theology, where did it come from? There was no theology in the Torah about a Messiah. So the Torah simply spoke about a ruling king and what a king's duties are. And the Torah gave the duties of a ruling king, or whoever is going to be the next king. That's what the Torah said. The Torah never said, oh yeah, in the year 0 BCE, there will be a man born, and then that man will be called by whatever, titles, by the Gentiles, and he will become the Messiah. It's all so funny, right, to me, because Jews have been arguing for 2,000 years, who is the Messiah? Is it Shabbatai ben Zavi? Is it Simon Bar Kokhba? Who is the Messiah? Even the Jews haven't been able to decide for 2,000 years, because first it was Simon Bar Kokhba. No, he died. He is not the Messiah. He established a temple. He established coins. He was a leader. He gathered the rebels together, freedom fighters, and they were all fighting gung ho, and they couldn't defeat the Romans. They were defeated themselves, and so therefore the Jews decided he is not the Messiah. Although Rabbi Kefa said he is the Messiah, who was a greatly renowned rabbi, a teacher. Then we have the other Jews later down the road, everybody claiming to be Messiah and his uncle. And we're still waiting for that Messiah. So coming back to that Christian man's argument that happened in the debate, I kind of rather found it funny, because the Torah tells you. Who decides what's symbolic and what's not? The Torah tells you. The Torah tells you that sons of Aaron are the ones that decide. They will decide what the Torah is and what it isn't, and they will teach you. They are your teachers forever. God's already spoken. So the Christian man's idea that you have to go to university to learn is totally preposterous and false. That you have to go to university to learn what is the Messiah and what is not the Messiah, and what is the symbol of the sky and what is the symbol of the earth. Because even for people like Neville Goddard, who was a British guy, by the way, he spoke, and wrote books over here in America. He came from England, and he was much admired. And then there was Dr. Joseph Murphy. He was an Irishman. He came from Ireland, his family, and those two together were the predominant students of Rabbi Abdullah Ibrahim, or Abraham, if you want to pronounce it that way. It doesn't matter, it's the same name. So the Rabbi Abraham, he was a teacher of both, and he was a black rabbi from Ethiopia, and he knew more about the New Testament than Christians in America did at the time. And he was able to explain a lot of the symbols, because we don't know what tribe he was from. I don't know what tribe he was from. But all I know that he was a teacher, a good teacher. And he was able to give these guys a lot of information, and they became very popular. And their books are popular to this day. And they gave really good lectures and speeches, and they spoke about the symbols and not the symbols. So my point is that they didn't need to go, even they did not need to go to university in America. And I know that Neville Goddard definitely didn't go to university in London, in England, because I came from England as well. So the question is, who decides? The Kohanim decide according to God's representation. And sure, I'm not saying that you can't decide. Sure, you can decide too, but doesn't mean that you'll be right. It doesn't mean that. You might be you'll be like that pastor standing in London and saying, "Oh, it is appointed for men to die once, and then there's a judgment." And I will pick up the passage of scripture. I won't just quote it. I will actually tell you Hebrews 9:27, and you can go to Bible Gateway if you like. You go to a Bible site, you pick up all the Bibles in the world over there. And you can type the word in, and it says in the New International Version, it says, just as people are destined to die once, and after that to face judgment. Okay? Now I'm going to go back to the KJV, because I like that, KJV, because that to me, right, at least you get the old language, old version of English. And sometimes it's better to read in the old English than into the new English, because you have the difference of thou, thee, and the you and the ye, which you don't get these days. You don't speak to people like the same way we used to in the 15th and the 16th century England, and when people used to speak like that. So my point is that the King James Version Bible, and I kind of like that, and I like the New King James as well. But I'm just saying that what the King James gives you, the thou and the thee, I kind of like that sometimes, because it gives a better explanation. And it says, as it is appointed unto men once to die. This is the KJV, by the way, King James Version. And it is appointed unto men once to die, but after this the judgment. Now what does it actually mean? Now, we could read the whole chapter of Hebrews, the letter of Hebrews, before and after, and get a context. And it talks, he talks about in chapter 9 about the covenant, the first covenant. Of course, the first covenant is well known in Christian world. It's about the Torah. The covenant is not just one covenant. The Torah has many covenants. So it's talking about some covenant it calls the first in the Torah. And then it goes on, and it says in verse 26, For then must he often have suffered since the foundation of the world, but now once in the end of the world hath he appeared to put away sin by the sacrifice of himself. And as it is appointed unto men once to die, but after this the judgment, so Christ was once offered to bear the sins of many, and unto them that look for him shall he appear the second time without sin unto salvation. Now, the symbolic, you can take the literal meaning and you'll get nowhere with it. The literal meaning will have you going round and round in circles, and you're going to have a hard time proving that there was even a man called Jesus. But if you take the symbolic meaning, it becomes very simple. Sin, unfortunately, for good words or bad words, we in our world today, or maybe 10 years ago, or maybe 20 years ago, the word sin has been misrepresented. Sin has been used to mean that you're doing something evil and you're no good. And there was a couple of preachers, call it evangelists, in Australia. Years ago, they were going around and saying to people, have you ever told a lie? Have you ever told a lie? And of course everybody will say, yeah, I did sometimes tell a white lie. Mostly everybody is guilty of that, of telling a white lie. And there's somebody who will say, yeah, I've told a white lie. I've told a lie before. And then they'll say, oh, you're going to go to, you broken the law. You broken the law, therefore you can't go to heaven. And now you must come to Jesus and put away your sin and you'll be able to go to heaven. What a total load of baloney. When I heard that, I wrote to these guys and I said, by what right do you quote the 10 Commandments and then you challenge people and say that you're going to go to hell? By what right do you say that? Aren't you contradicting yourself? Because the Torah never says to anybody that you must fulfill the whole law. The Torah doesn't expect from people, God doesn't expect people to be completely 100% dots, crossing the T's and dotting the I's. Torah never commands it. The Torah actually makes it very simple. The word is near you. It is not far away from you. It is near you. And you can do it. Meaning that the Torah even puts things lightly. And God never says, hey, if you don't do the Torah fully, you will go to hell. So it's kind of funny, right? The Torah never makes that challenge and says, hey, you over there, Kefa, if you don't do the Torah fully, you're going to go to hell. Because the Torah doesn't even speak about a hell. Torah doesn't speak about a heaven. So the theologies have been built up around sin. And sin, for, Indian theologians, when I say theologians, I mean Indian gurus, and I don't blame their explanation. Their explanation is probably better than Christian explanation. They say sin is simply a limitation of your mind. It's a limitation. When you have a limitation of your mind, that's sin. That means you're a sinner by the limitation of your mind. They don't say, oh, because you told a white lie, you're a sinner, or because you did something, you're a sinner. No, they don't say that. They say limitation. But what does Torah say? The Torah says missing the mark is sin. Meaning that something you desire to do, to fulfill in your life, if you miss that mark, you are a sinner. Pure and simple explanation. Nothing about evil, nothing about you going to hell, nothing about you being a bad person, nothing. Nothing about telling a white lie, because I'm pretty sure that all of us have told plenty of white lies in our life. So that doesn't put us into the category of hell either. But this is what the Sunday preachers want you to believe, so they can continue to deceive you, and they continue to make you sound like you're inferior. And so years ago, when I was sitting back in my home in England, I was thinking, why do two people? I saw the story of Bill Gates, Microsoft's CEO leader, and at the time I saw his story, and it read that he dropped out of college and he became successful after producing the MS-DOS operating system, and today you know where he is. He's a billionaire, right? And then there was other people who went to university, got their degree, but never got anywhere. So my question was back then, why do two people go to university? They maybe run the same degree course and they both complete their degrees, or maybe one drops out and one doesn't. And then the dropout comes out and is instantly success. And the one who stayed in the university, he got his degree, he got his little paper, he's happy with his little piece of paper, he comes out and he can't even find a job. And he's unsuccessful. I asked that question years ago to myself, why is one person successful and one's not successful? Why is one metal magnetic and one not magnetic? The magnetic metal can pick up metal, heavy metal, pieces of metal, and lift it up like nothing. Like piece of, putting knife in butter. Just lift it up. Oh, no sweat. 1,000 pounds of metal, it just pulls it up. Boom. And you've probably seen that in movies. You've probably seen it in real life. If you go to a breaker's yard, you see a big, heavy magnet. They just lift up cars like little toys. And yet, you have people. This was the answer that I received years ago, that you have two people. One's got a university degree and one hasn't. Yet one is a billionaire today and the other one is still struggling to make ends meet. He can't even, he's just about trying to pay his student loan off. Come on, this is true. I'm telling you, this is true in life. You go to university, you rake up a debt of $100,000 in America, and in England, 15 years ago, or even 10 years ago, in England, universities, there were no fees. 20 years ago, they had no fees in universities. But today, if you go to England, it's a changed world. Yeah, today you got to pay fees. And it's not, they let you off some tuition fees, but you still got to rake up a debt. And it may not be the $100,000. It might be that you might rake up a debt of £40,000, which is about $50,000. You might rake up a debt of maybe £50,000, maybe £30,000, because what will happen is students will pick up loans from the university to survive, to pay for their bills, to pay for their food, because maybe mom and dad haven't got the golden spoon to feed their children. So my point is that the only reason two people, I've got several people that come to my room. I had thousands of students throughout my ministry, thousands of them. I'm telling you for real, and I'm not, making this up. I have thousands of students all over the world. They love me, they respect me, they follow my teachings. They've been following them for years, and they still do. And I can tell you, out of those thousands of students, and I don't even have a count how many thousand. And those thousands of students, somebody might write to me and say, Rabbi, I've been following your teachings, and I've become extremely successful. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart that, if I hadn't found you, I would still be, searching out there and still be nowhere in life. That is the difference between a magnetized metal and a non-magnetized metal. You have two metals, one is magnetic, one is not. You have two men, one is magnetic, one is not. And I use the term loosely, men. It could be women as well. I spoke to a family yesterday in the East, and I want to give you this as a testimony. I spoke to this family and I went to their house only one time. I went to their house and I had a chat with them, and I spoke about some things, and I blessed their home, did a little, prayer, blessed their home, and I said this. I make this statement all the time, by the way, and you probably heard it, that wherever I put my foot, that country, that home, that individual will be blessed. I make that claim, and I don't make it lightly, and I make it all the time, and I'll continue to make it. And it is a true claim. Wherever I have put my foot, that country, that individual, that home has been blessed tremendously. And you know what this woman told me yesterday in conversation? She said to me, I want to tell you something, because it just happens to be I found or sent a message to them out of the blue, because I changed my telephone number. So I thought I better tell them that my number has changed in case they need to ever get in touch. And she told me, she said that there's a lockdown in the country. 3 days of the week the whole country shut down, and my son is going to a job and he's only working half a day. He's only allowed half a day because he works in the kitchen as a cook. And she said that things have been tough. All over the world, the pandemic has caused all sorts of issues for people's lives. She said things have been tough, but my daughter was saying that man that came to our house, he came to our house and we have never experienced food shortage. She said that the man that came to our house, ever since he stepped foot in our house, we have never experienced food shortage. Why, Mom? Something special about that man. She said, yes, there is something special about that man. By the way, this is a Muslim family. And she said there's something special about that man, that he came to our house, and even though we didn't have enough, we didn't have a huge boatload of cash. We don't have a boatload of cash. We're not exactly the richest people in the world. We're not even called middle class, but yet God has never left us without food. And she said, I really respect that man, because he came from, out of nowhere. He probably lives thousands of miles away, and he came and he blessed us, and we have food in our home. And you know what she said to me? She said, whenever I speak to you, I get solace and I get comfort in my heart that what you teach me and what you tell me is going to work for my life. And I said to her that do not worry, the pandemic will go, but you must do certain things in your life to make your life better. And I gave her certain principles of success, and she was happy to receive those. And that was the end of conversation. It was a short conversation. So my point is this, that was from just yesterday's conversation. So I wanted to give you that. Why is one person successful and one is not successful? Because one person is magnetized and the other one is not magnetized. And so, it brings me to the same point. Who decides that what God's word should be treated as or translated as? I remember that I spoke to Rabbi Zakaria. Rabbi Zakaria saying that I'm a witness to the blessings of the Kohen entering your house. I went to Rabbi Zakaria's home back in 2016, I believe. I believe might be also 2015. We did 2 lectures, 2 teachings in his house. And I said to Rabbi Zakaria, I said, Rabbi Zakaria, 2015. I said to him that you're going to find that your home's going to be blessed by this. And you will see it, and you will admit it yourself. You will tell other people that yes, it happened. And Rabbi Zakaria is standing here or sitting maybe in his home, and he is telling you in 2021 that this man came to my house, the Kohen came to my house to teach. And many people went over there. Rabbi Kefa is witness to that as well. Many people went. He came as well. We don't have those people with us today. They're all left except maybe 3 or 4 of them. They're all gone. And they've probably got their own little life, and they're all probably, messed up somewhere. I could guarantee you they're all messed up because they did not follow through with my teachings. They did not follow through. And those people that followed through, I can guarantee you, I have one man in the room right now today that I spoke to. He's standing here today, Yaakov. Yaakov is sitting here today. And I told him in India, I said, Yaakov, that's not his Hebrew, that's not his Gentile name, by the way. But I said to him in his Gentile name back then, I said, I'm going to see you in America. You're going to go to America. And he wasn't even close to New York at that time. There was no way in history that he could have ever entered New York. And he said to me, Rabbi, I've been following you in India. He's from India. And he said, I've been following you and I believe you. And he was in Hyderabad. He said he was in India, Hyderabad at the time. Hyderabad is a city in India. There's also one in Pakistan as well called Hyderabad, near Karachi. So he was in Hyderabad, part of India. And he said to me, Rabbi, what you have told me, I believe you. I said, I will see you in America. And you know what? It took, I don't know how long it took, but he ended up in New York. He's in New York today. He was like, hey, Yaakov, you was broke and you were jobless. I remember that. But you were faithful. And now you're in New York with a job. Now you're with a good job in New York. And I told him, I said to him back then with his Gentile name, but I will say his Hebrew name over here, Yaakov. I said, Yaakov, you're going to be in America, and I'm going to see you there. And he then subsequently got married, and he ended up in America, in New York. And he's got a job here in New York. Baruch Hashem, he's got a beautiful wife, he's got a beautiful baby son. He's a very happy man. And he only believed the Kohen that what I told him was true. So he became the magnetic man. You have your other men that are not magnetic, that left me. And where are they today? Nowhere in life. But you have the magnetic man right in front of you. I'm not making this story up, by the way. He's there, you can ask him. I didn't make this up. He will tell you. If you ever met him in real life, he will tell you this. So my point is that you got to make yourself magnetic. You got to be with the right people. You got to be with the right man to be blessed, to be magnetized. I use the term magnetized lightly, I don't use it heavily. But this is the difference between somebody who's magnetized. You have to activate your brain. You have to activate the blessings in your life. And how are you going to do those if you're going to keep reading the books, the holy books, if you're going to keep reading them wrong? How are you going to activate them? Christians all over the world, good Christian people, will go to churches on Sunday. And yesterday they would have been crying, their eyes out, oh, Jesus died and, I feel so sorry. But hey, he rose again. And Sunday he's going to rise from the dead. But guess what? You can activate your Jesus within you right now. And he can be risen from the dead because you activated your brain. You activated your centers, the consciousness, the subconsciousness. You activated them. When you activated those centers, you have Jesus living. I'm using Jesus as a paraphrase, as a state. I'm not using Jesus as a person. I'm using it as a state. If you're in that Jesus state, or if you're in that Moses state, or maybe you're a Muslim and you're in the Muhammad state, the Prophet of Islam, maybe you're in that state. It doesn't matter, because they're all magnetic states. They are all states. And depends which state you live in. Or you could be no state. And I don't mean you're not in America, like that state in America. You could be no state, and you're hopelessly lost. And Rabbi Kefa is saying that HaKohen told me in my living room in 2013 that I would take a wife from the east and have a son. It is so today. Magnetic man indeed. Absolutely, Rabbi Kefa. I told Rabbi Kefa that you're gonna have a wife from the east and you're gonna have a son from her. Now, how did I guess that? You see, that's between me and God. How I guessed it. I didn't quite guess it. It was revealed to me. When it was revealed to me, I just told him that information. So whatever information I receive from the divine, call it divine, call it universe, we call it God, call it Yahweh, call it Allah, call it whatever you want to. So God revealed to me that this will happen, and I revealed it to him. And he is blessed by that information today. And I stepped foot into Rabbi Kefa's home, not once, not twice, maybe 5, 6, 7 times. Rabbi Kefa, we did our Passover celebration there a couple of times. I remember we did a Pentecost celebration there as well a few years back. But Rabbi Kefa is such a blessed man today. He has received such tremendous blessings in his home that only he can tell you what those blessings are. I will let him speak for himself. But this is the difference between a magnetic man and a non-magnetic man. So you can be a magnetic man stroke woman, girl, if you want to call yourself a girl, or you can be a non-magnetic non-magnetic man or woman. It's up to you. I don't force people to accept what I say, but I know this for a fact. If I step into your home physically, or maybe I'm stepping into your home through my voice, I can guarantee you that there will be a blessing that goes out into your home, and you will never be the same again. Adelia is saying that HaKohen visited my home in 2018, and by the way, Adelia lives in Miami Beach side. I visited her home in 2018, and now she said I moved to a new house. Baruch Hashem. What a wonderful testimony. So we really need to go back to the books, what we call the holy books. And I'm not, against anybody's faith. I'm not here trying to lambast Christians. There are many good people in Christianity, many great people in Christianity. And I'm not lambasting anybody's faith, but I'm simply saying, I'm appealing to all of you. Stop interpreting your books literally all the time, because you may be ending up in the wrong type of interpretations. Some things are literal, yes. Some things are literal, but other things are definitely not literal. And we cannot continue to go down that pathway of stumbling and creating stumbling blocks for our life and not being, receiving our desires. What's wrong with receiving a house in your life? What's wrong with having a new car? What's wrong with having money in the bank? Yet some of your parents, when you were younger, and I hear stories all the time, they curse their children and say, you're good for nothing. You will be useless. You will be nothing. You'll be a loser. Mothers who have their own flesh and blood, and fathers who have their own flesh and blood are guilty of that, of using that language against their children. And they make them psychologically weak. And those children, poor children, they grow up. They grow up with an inferiority complex that my father told me this and my mother told me that. And you as a mother, you have absolutely no right to teach your children and curse them like that. That's just terrible. Or as a father, that's terrible. If you've ever done that, I would encourage you to come before God and clean up your state. Apologize and get right with that. And apologize to your son or daughter as well that you did the wrong thing. Shouldn't have done that. You should always encourage your children. As a parents, they look up to you. As teachers, they look up to us. And our job is to encourage them, bless them, and look for their best in their life. They should be the kings and queens, the princess and princesses that they are. That's who they should be. And look how great the world would be. And this pandemic has brought things so close to us, so much of reality, that we realize that what it was like to meet people in the street. Because today, you can't go out and meet people in the street because you're restricted. You can't hug somebody because the government tells you that if you hug somebody, you might pass on the virus. And you might infect other people. So you're advised not to hug people, not to shake hands, not to kiss on the cheek. All those things have today become a taboo, not allowed. And we're not just talking about America, we're talking all over the world. And yet, there was a little regathering of a son and a mom or a grandmother. And the grandmother was crying. She said, this happened in America. She was crying. She said, I haven't had a hug for many months. It's been over a year I was hugged by my son or my grandson. And they were hugging each other and they were, shedding tears of joy. Even a hug had become an event of shedding tears of joy. So it's important, because we are human beings. For us, contact is important, very important. Now talk about contact of human beings. But what about parents' contact? Very important. But what about contact of teachers? So if you put yourself in a room and you don't have a good teacher, then you could be going down a very narrow path. And Jesus spoke about he spoke about the narrow path. Narrow is the gate, and very few find it. Wide is the gate, and many go through it. So, which gate are you going to enter? Are you going to enter the narrow gate or the wide gate? This is something that you have to address, and you have to answer. And so, with that, I was looking at some of the terminologies that are used in the New Testament, and it said in John, the book of John, chapter 3, verse 3, and it says, and I'll read to you verbatim what it actually says there in the English Bible. It says, Jesus answered him, "Truly, truly, I say to you, unless one is born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God." What does that mean? Well, Christians take this terminology and they say to you that unless you're born again, you're going to go to hell. Doesn't matter whether you're Christian, Muslim, Hindu, whatever, Buddhist, whoever. Even if you're a Christian, you don't believe in it, you're going to go to hell, according to Christian theology, but not according to the universe, not according to the source energy, not according to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. No, no, and no, and no, and no, no. 100% no. Because it doesn't mean what they teach you. Jesus was talking about being born of above, meaning that you are dead, technically. Yeah, that's right, Eddie. They invented their own terminologies as well. You are actually technically dead until you are magnetized. Jesus was talking about you being magnetized, you activating the kingdom within you, which is your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is the one that connects to God, or let's call it, if you don't like the term God, we'll call it higher source energy. If you don't like the term Yahweh, you don't like the term Allah because you hate Muslims maybe, then we'll use the term source energy. You'll connect to source energy through your subconscious. And if that's the case, then sure, unless you connect to source energy, that's born again, by the way. You're born again when your source energy is, when your subconscious connects to source energy, or the universe. And unless you're magnetized, you cannot connect. You will not make that connection. So this is where I feel that a lot wrong has been done, trying to interpret the scriptures in a way that they should not have been interpreted. And there was an argument. There has been debates in the scriptures themselves, in the book of New Testament. There has been debates about Pharisees, Sadducees, and maybe some other people as well. Maybe who they call the Essenes today. They're also the priesthood, by the way. Another fringe group. And you will find that today, when you really step back and you sit and take a look, you're going to find that the Pharisees actually were wrong and the Sadducees were right, because the Sadducees is the priesthood. And the priesthood, you know what the priesthood said? What are you talking about? There's heaven and hell. There's no heaven, there's no hell, and there's no punishment after this life, because God will just simply send you back. They argued about that, but Christianity will never tell you that. And no pastor over here today even knows that. And those that know, they keep it to themselves because, they don't want to be persecuted by the Christian church. But since I don't belong to a Christian church, I can tell you that that's what it is. Because born again is simply terminology to mean that you must activate your connection to God. And that doesn't occur because you took a dip in the water. I mean, sure, you can take the dip in the water. Oh, absolutely. Eddie, yes, the Pharisees and the Christians today, they all together rejected the Sadducees and the priesthood as nuts and lunatics and whatever else terminology they used. But I can tell you, and there's dozens of people in this room, and there's probably many other people outside of this experience of mine, that I can tell you that I've gone to their home, and these were pretty poor people. I don't mean to belittle them, but they were pretty poor in the sense that they didn't have no money. They did not have flashy cars and flashy houses. But when I stepped into their houses, today they have moved on. They have moved on to a better house. They have moved on to better transportation. So, have they done well? Yeah, absolutely. They have done well. And some are done even better than that. Even better than that. So my point is that don't run down the Sadducees. They're not the evil guys that Christianity made them to be. The Christian clergy, I don't blame the Christians generally, but it's the clergy. It's the so-called teachers, it's the so-called pastors and leaders and archbishop and whatever big titles you want to give them. They are clueless. Even today they are clueless, because they continue to teach the truths that are not the truths. Absolutely, Eddie. When the temple was destroyed, the priesthood went east. They only came to the west. I only came to the west because my family, my parents, they traveled to the west. That's the only way I ended up in America. Otherwise, I might still be in the East somewhere. So my point is that most of them went East. They ended up in countries like Iraq, Iran, Pakistan, all Afghanistan, those places. Many of the priesthood ended up over there. And fat surprise that I'm connected to the people over there. That's a fat surprise, isn't it? It's no surprise. So we mustn't be, we mustn't take things out of context. And when you read the New Testament, and there should be absolutely no problem reading the New Testament for people. In Mark chapter 19 verse 15 it says, "Truly I say to you, whoever does not receive the kingdom of God like a child shall not enter it." Okay? So that doesn't mean that you have to be like children to go to heaven. That means you have to be like childlike. You have to accept things like a child, without fear, without rejection, without being, embarrassed about it. Children just do things. They're not embarrassed about it. They're not embarrassed to accept something or reject something. They just do it. Whereas the adults, the adult population, when they go to accept something, they'll be embarrassed. Oh, maybe, what will that man say over there who's looking at me? But the children don't care. I mean, I can guarantee you that Rabbi Kefa has a son, Nakshan, when he dances, he don't care who's looking at him. He's just dancing. He hears some music, he hears something he likes, and he starts dancing without care for the world. This is how a child, this is what the New Testament meant. That you got to receive the kingdom of God as a child means that you need to activate your centers, your brain centers. And when your brain centers are activated, you are considered born again, and you are considered to be like a child. Receive it like a child. Don't question it. Don't say, oh, how is it going to happen? Yes, I got plenty of sources for that, Prince, but I'm not here right now to prove history, okay? We're not in history. I am a source for you right now. I came from the East, and there's plenty of history out there that the priesthood went East. There's plenty of sources, and you can read up. You want a source? Go read the book of Nehemiah. Isn't that your source? That says that we were in Iran, and if you don't know, then you need to learn where we were. Iran is in the East, by the way. Last I checked, it's still in the East, and Iran had occupied. History tells us that Iran occupied over 100 provinces, including northern India, Afghanistan, parts of Afghanistan, northern India, and other countries, all the way up to Turkey, all the way. By the way, that was a Persian Empire. So, it's right there. You just got to look and check history. So, my point is that we cannot if we want kingdom of God, if we want the kingdom of God, we cannot be like adults and say, well, how is it going to happen? We have to be like little children. Accept it, that this is the case. And that's what Jesus was trying to teach his disciples. Look, he went to Peter. There was a conversation between Peter and Jesus of Nazareth. There's a beautiful conversation there. And he says to Peter, in Matthew chapter 16, verses 15 up, he says, "And I tell you, you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church." That's how they translate it, by the way, in the Bible. "I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. And whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven." Now look, you might think Peter is a literal man, and Jesus is literally talking to Peter in a literal sense, like he's going to establish a building. We're going to call it the Protestant church. He's going to establish in the 16th century, and King James is going to, open the door to it or something. you might be guilty of that. Or maybe the Pope, is going to establish a new religion, and we have to go to Italy, Rome, and we have to go and bow down before that big building and say to the Pope, "Thank you very much, sir, thank you very much, Your Honor, thank you very much, Father," or whatever titles you're going to use for the Pope. It's kind of funny if you do that, because by the way, I did go to Italy, and I went to the place where Paul apparently went, It wasn't far from Rome. It was about I'm hazarding a guess. It was maybe about an hour's, 2 hours, less than 2 hours drive to where Paul went in Italy, and he was speaking to the Jews in Italy back then. And I was there. I saw the place. I saw an old ruins over there of a Roman temple, and he was there trying to preach what he learned back in Israel. So my point is this, right? You can either go to the Pope and bow down before him and, Father, help me. You can say that, or you can receive the Pope, or you can receive some pastor or some archbishop, or some religion. Jesus was not talking about a new religion being established. Look, Jesus, if you really went with a literal reading, then Jesus was a Jew. Well, when was the last time a Jewish man decided that according to the Torah law is going to establish a new church? That never happened. So my point is that it's not literal. It's talking about a state. I'm not talking about Ohio and Florida either. I'm not talking about those states. I'm talking about a state of mind. A state of you. Are you in the Peter state? Are you in the Peter state where you're going to receive the kingdom of God? Because the kingdom of God is within you. You have to activate it. And if your kingdom of God is activated, things going to start to happen like this. Boom, 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 boom. Oh, there were many Jews. Yeah, that's right, Eddie. There are many Jews in Italy at the time. And so my point is this, that the kingdom of God will activate within you. And how do you activate it? I've given you many tools and techniques to activate the kingdom of God. We have the Passover today for us, because we celebrate the Enoch, the solar Passover, and it's a wonderful time to remember how God rescued our people, how He brought us out of Egypt, and how He blessed us, and how He showed us miracles. It's a wonderful time. It's a beautiful time to remember God and remember His covenants. And I'm not saying that if you don't do that you're a bad person, because that was something given to me. That was something given to the children of Israel. And if you never belong to the children of Israel, if you're somebody from outside, I'm not going to put you down for that. I don't need to. You can equally, come and join the family of Israel, or you may not. You may decide not to, and either is okay with me. I've got nothing against that person who doesn't join. But my point is this, that for us is a tremendously time of blessing. This time, as I told you, this week is such a powerful week that if you did your chanting of the Gimel alone, if you did nothing in your life, and all you did was Gimel chanting every day, 200 times, or 216 on the 108 beads, you're going to see miracles in your life just with that. And there's many other tools and techniques that you can do. So we're going to sit today and we're going to give thanks to God. What is it? It's gratitude. We're going to give gratitude to God and say thank you, the source energy, or thank you, Master of heaven and earth. Thank you that you brought us out of that terrible time when our families became slaves, and you rescued us. And we needed the rescue. We couldn't wait for Jesus to turn up 2,000 years later and then rescue us. We needed rescue right there with Moses. So Moses became our Jesus. Moses was our salvation. Moses was our rescue. So Moses came and Moses said, okay, I'm going to take you out. I've been sent. And the word sent means word sent is shalach in the Bible. And so he was sent, and and this is exactly what the disciples of Jesus were called, shlachim, the sent ones. So yes, they were sent, and Moses was sent to rescue a people. And so when you have a problem today, if you have a problem in 2021, you don't want rescue to happen 10 years from now. You want rescue today. You're not going to wait 10 years and say, oh, okay, I'll wait 10 years and I'll wait for the rescue. Maybe God will come down and help me. God is within you. And yes, sure, God can help you. Maybe a man like me will come in your life and tell you, how God's going to help you. How He's going to activate your life to become the magnetic man and woman that you should be. I can do that, yes. Or I could maybe, since God has blessed me so much, maybe I do a prayer, or maybe I come into your home or something. Whether it's by faith, through the voice, or whether physically, either way, you're going to receive your blessing. So you will still receive your blessing, guarantee it. I guarantee it, you will receive your blessing. All I ask you to do is believe. The woman who came to Jesus of Nazareth, the woman who was sick for 12 years, and she was slowly dying because of the blood loss in her life. And she believed wholeheartedly that I'm going to just touch his corner of his garment, the fringes. I'm just going to touch the zits, and I'm going to be healed. And she just went over there, touching his garment, touching his strings. We call them strings, zits. And she was instantly healed. And Jesus said, "Who touched me?" Power went out of me. Because she believed. And Rabbi Zechariah is saying, my rescue came in 2008 when I met her Kohen. So my point is this, that who is going to, you got to just touch. You just got to touch the fringes. And if you touch the fringes, or it's a technical term for the garment, we call it zits, but I'm not saying you have to physically go touch it. I'm saying that if you physically, like let's say I came into your sphere, or maybe a Jewish man, or Jewish man came into your sphere, might be Rabbi Kefa, might be somebody else, and they touched you, or maybe you touched them. And the touch doesn't have to be physical. It doesn't mean it has to be physically touch each other. It means that maybe he spoke a blessing over you, then you will be blessed. This is how it works. So the Bible is illustrating a point in hyperbolic language, that this woman came and she believed it so wholeheartedly that she just touched him. And she was considered unclean by the culture at the time. She was considered to be ritually impure. She is not allowed to touch a man. Even today in Israel, if you ever go to Israel and you go to Mere Shirim, Jews won't even stop to talk to a woman. They will not even stop to talk to you. They're so hard-nosed. They won't let you touch them. They won't speak to you. Then you'll say, oh, how rude are they? They won't even speak to a person. But they are like that. See, that culture from 2,000 years ago carries forward. It carries forward to this day, where they consider a woman touching them is wrong. They even consider a woman speaking to them is wrong. So that was a culture that Jesus kind of faced, where he's not meant to be touched by a woman, especially one who's ritually impure. So yet we know that that's not the meaning of that entirely. But we know that Jesus, representation in the New Testament, was a kind man, a great man, a kind man. He was considered by some to be a prophet, by others to be the Messiah, and some others to be the king. So Eddie's saying that when my friend and I were lost in Brooklyn many years ago, we were in the Orthodox area and asked the Jews for direction, and they wouldn't even say any words to us. The man almost did, but his wife took him away. See, that attitude even exists in New York. Brooklyn is in New York, by the way, and New York, the Jews have the same attitude. We will not speak to the Gentile. We will not speak to women. They carry the same hard attitude, which is, to my opinion, it's wrong. But that's how they live. That's how they live. So my point is this, that Jesus was telling you that, are you going to be in the Peter state? Peter is a state, because Peter is something that was translated by the people from Kefa to Peter. Kefa is the other way to say it. So if you're in the Peter state, you have the kingdoms of heaven. You decide something, you pop it into your consciousness, you give it to your conscious mind, it pops into your subconscious. Your subconscious is the ripe old field. It's like an English terminology of a garden. You drop the seed. You drop the seed of your desire, and boom, it will come to pass. That's the Peter state, by the way. And so Jesus was simply illustrating a point that you have the ability, the kingdom is within you. You have the keys to the kingdom. You have the keys. And maybe you don't know how to turn those keys. Maybe somebody like me will come along, or maybe somebody like Rabbi Kefa will come along and say, hey, you know what? You need to turn the key this way, and then the lock will open. That's all you need, and you're ready to go. And maybe you need a bit more than that. Maybe you're a person who's, troubled from the past. Maybe you've gone through a lot of trauma, and you've got a lot of problems and a lot of troubles. And somebody like me will come along and have to handhold you for a while and say, let's not, look at the past. Let's look at the present, how we fix everything today. We don't need to wait 10 years to fix it. We'll fix it today. But we'll start working on the fix right now. And I start to teach you the tools and the techniques and the things you need to do in order to fix those things. And you will find that, yes, things start to change. Things start to click. I mean, Rabbi Kefa tells you many times in his testimony that he used to go to, I think he went to Catholic school, he went to John Hagee, he went to other pastors, but he said that he, was doing his Shabbat Dabba with his belief in the cupboard, in his room, but he found that things were not moving until he came to a certain point in his life where things started to move. When he met me, things started to shift. And things started to move, and started to move quickly. So he was faithful, he was sincere, he followed through, and today he can tell you that he's a very happy man. He's like living in heaven today, right on this earth. So, yeah, you can have it. You can live in heaven today. Right now, you can live in heaven. Or you can wait till you die. So, I encourage you to live it today. Don't wait till you die. Live it today. Be happy with your life. Be thankful. Give gratitude. Give thanks to God. And you will be a happy man or a happy woman, and you can live your heaven today. You don't need to wait, till you die. If God has given you 30 years of life, you don't need to wait 30 years to die and go to your heaven. You can have your heaven today. Your paradise is here. It's right here if you want it, right now. And I say this prayer every morning. I say this prayer, and I encourage you also to say it. And the prayer, the prayer is as follows. The prayer is, and God has made me plenteous in goods, in the fruit of my body, in the fruit of my cattle, in the fruit of my ground, in the land which God has placed me in, right now. That's the prayer that I do. And I would ask you sincerely to do this prayer as well. And God has made me the head, and not the tail, and I'm above only, continuously, and never beneath. So I'd encourage you to think about it. Today is a Passover. Today is a beautiful, beautiful time for blessing. It was a rescue of a people in the ancient times. Today is a time of blessing. Today is a time of recollection, looking back and giving thanks to God. And I give thanks with whole heart. And I bless all of you that come into this room. And I say to you with a sincere heart, you can all have this blessing. And you don't have to join some club to have this blessing. You can have this blessing without joining any clubs. And you don't have to give money to be blessed. You can have this blessing free. But again, I ask you, just like Jesus went to Peter and said to him that, come follow me. He's saying to his disciples, come follow me, to each disciple. And they decided, some people decided to follow him. And it says in the New Testament that many people followed him, and then many left him. And they left him and they went their merry way. And he didn't sit there and start crying and bawling his eyes out. Oh, these people have left me, and I wouldn't do that either. But we go on from strength to strength. So with you, sit down if you're sitting down, and face, eyes down, and I'm going to bless you. I'm going to give you a blessing today, that the blessing of the priests that has been commanded unto us. Whoever is present today, whoever is listening to this, and it doesn't matter if you listen to this after today, you will be blessed. Yivrechacha Yahweh v'ishmerecha, Yair Yahweh panav alecha v'chunecha, Yisa Yahweh panav alecha v'asim lecha shalom. May Yahweh increase you and watch over you. May Yahweh shine his face towards you and show you favor. May Yahweh be favorably disposed towards you and grant you shalom. And I command this blessing upon you in the name of our forefathers Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, including Ishmael, his sons. I command this blessing upon you today, that you receive good things in your life, goodness in your life, favor, healing in every way possible. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Rabbi Kefa. Have a blessed day. And those of you that celebrate Easter, I send a blessing to you as well. You have a great Easter and a great Passover. Todah, Shabbat Shalom, Shalom Shalom.
Todah Rabbi HaKohen, Amin, Amin. Todah Rabbi for the increase of the Kohen, of the priesthood. Kind of brought me back high. Shabbat Shalom to you, Rabbi Zechariah, Eddies, Oliver, Vive la France. Shabbat Shalom to all of you, Mishpaha, on this high Shabbat. Those of you who are in the Passover mode, I tell you, I enjoyed my cheesecake last night with the family. I really had a good time watching my Charleston Heston 10 Commandments. I will say this as well. My lecture today is going to be all about patience. You know, not so much the word patience, because when you look at our Torah, patience is not even mentioned in the whole of the Torah of Moshe. The Torah of Moses, patience is not even mentioned, believe it or not. Patience is not mentioned at all. So I would encourage you all to be, as told in our holy books, to be as still as stone. I would encourage you all to be patient. Just be patient. We're going to talk about patience today, and not being patient. But I think it's important for us to understand is that we just have to sit back, continue to do our necessaries, kind of like putting it in cruise control, and just do what we do as the people of the book, regardless of what people may think of us, regardless of our loved ones and family members and friends who have embraced or accepted or even understand, life really, and that life more abundantly. Because when I was sitting there watching the Charleston Heston movie again, as I always do, it's a tradition in our home, and the 10 Commandments one, and I was just thinking how political religions are. And my wife, when I talk about patience, she said something to me as we were watching the movie. She was like, honey, this movie is about me. I'm like, what do you mean it's about you? My wife is from China. She's Chinese. She's from China. She said, this movie is about me and my life. She said, she said, I was just like those people. She said, and now I've been freed. I was like, Hashem. I said, that's totally true. But, for me to realize that, I realized this a long time ago, that my wife has the rescue of the Most High, of source energy of powers. Because this is why she's here in America today. And as all of you know, America, there's people at the borders right now waiting, with anticipation to enter America. At all of our borders, people want to come in. But, this is why those of you in America, those of you who are listening via Facebook or you're listening on the YouTube forum, social media forum, you really are a blessed people if you're in America. And I'm not knocking those people who are outside of America, because I know there are some here that are outside of America. And I'm not knocking you, and I'm not trying to shame you in no kind of way, but, those of you in other countries as well understand. I know, Oliver, you probably can speak more to this than, anyone else, because you're in France. But, countries look up to America in a way that's different than other countries. America has this feel to it that no other country has. And why is that? Because America is one of the great shepherd nations. One of them. But I can tell you this, America has some Hebrews here. America does have some Hebrews here, and that favor, from the Most High, from source energy, from powers, can be felt. Can be felt, worldwide, world over. And not only that, the Kohen is here. The Kohen has set up base here. That's another one of the great reasons why as well. You're going to see favor here. You're going to see a lot of favor here. You're going to see a lot of the positive sides of the energies that we experience and that we witness for ourselves. But my wife, and when she said that to me, it really You know what really came to me from Mother Wisdom was sit back and be still as stone and be patient. And let people, afford people and individuals and humanity the opportunity to grow. They may not grow at your level. Like Kohen said, he talked about the magnetism. They may not have the same magnetism as you and I have. Maybe their magnets, instead of going, positive, negative, or both negative and negative, or both positive and positive. And you know from science what happens when you try to put magnets together from the same polarity, like both positive or both negative. What do? Anybody tell me? You did that science project, you remember back in school, when you took those two magnets, and some of them, the magnets can be quite powerful, and you try to place with all of your energy, you try to place two positive sides together. What happens? Or the two negative posts of the magnet, what happens to that magnet? You'll find that the magnet cannot come together. You cannot have that connection. You could not have that connection. I tell you, I'm watching this series. It's called Resurrection on Netflix, and it's all about the Crusades. I talked about one part of history where it deals with the Crusades in Jerusalem, and the Crusades and the Crusaders, and the Crusades with the Muslims and the Christians and the Templars and all that. And I look at all that, and it's just as political as they want to be, And that's what I see for the majority of religion. Not all of it, but majority of it is just all about politics. At the end of the day, it's all about politics for profit, and not to profit the people, but to profit the church or the institution. You understand what I'm saying? And I see that if I can make a summary of religions for the most part, I won't say as a whole, because there is a small percentage of a purity behind these religions where, people actually believe and they have faith in, let's just say, misunderstood teachings. They have more belief in the misunderstood teachings or the guidance that they're receiving than they believe in their own self. And this is why they get the magnets, just like Rabbi Zachariah talked about, they'll push away from each other when they try to connect. When the rebirth needs to happen within the individual, it can't happen because they're polar, the two polarities are the same. And so they actually push away from each other. And so you'll find this in humanity as students of human nature. You're going to find this as you study humanity. And as you study peoples that are around you, family members, friends, and loved ones, the connection it pushes away because why? Their belief system is based on something that's faulty. And they truly believe it. And they're going to take this belief to their grave with the cross around their neck or, however they want to do it. But they're going to take that with them to the grave. Why? It's because that's been embedded in them. And it's very difficult to have that birth that comes from within when you have something like that embedded in you from birth. You come out getting dinked and dunked and being baptized as a baby. And it just cycles on from there. And so in their defense, this is why it requires us, and the mandate that is going out today during our Passover time is to learn another P word, is learn patience. It's to be patient. It's to be still a stone with these individuals and not show any kind of emotion towards, feeling towards like hatred, because that can stem up, because they love their belief system and they believe in what they believe so, they're like zealots. They believe in it so hard-heartedly that they'll hate you for not believing what they believe. Kohen talked about debates. Debates are going on all around you all the time. But the situation I see with debates is that the two sides cannot come together to agree to disagree. Because one side always wants to be right whilst trying to shame or put down the other side as being wrong. You know what I mean? And this is the problem that you have with debates, and Kohen will tell you, some debates will end in fisticuffs, and can even end even worse than death, because they believe in their belief system that seriously, and they believe that they're right. How many of you know debates that have ended in bloodshed, or even in death? And this is why it's good to have other parties that are neutral, that can kind of keep the sides at bay, because it'll get to those points to where you'll lose your peace in the middle of the debate. Shalom will be far from you. And anger and animosity and just hatred will boil up. This is why it takes really mature individuals to be able to have a debate. Because the first thing they'll understand is that in a debate, you have to agree to disagree. And sometimes, how many of you have heard this in lectures from our Kohen? Sometimes to win, you have to lose in their perspective of understanding. How many of you agree with that? Is that sometimes, as students of human nature, to win, you literally have to lose. And so sometimes they even may call you a loser. Oh, you're a loser. Well, so be it. Maybe a loser in your eyes, but I actually won. You may have won this battle, but I have won the war. You must have that kind of mentality, Mishpachah. You must be still as stone. You must invoke and petition for patience. To be patient. Patient with your loved ones, patient with your children, patience with, those that are, humanity. Because we're not out here, and we haven't been given the mandate to go out here and just like the Crusaders and go out here and just, slam people with the Torah of Moses. That's not our purpose. The Torah of Moses is to benefit us as individuals. And then us being benefactors of the benefits of the Torah, then we begin to emit a certain light that affects our world that's around us, our nation that's around us, our universe that surrounds us. Baruch Hashem. That's the beauty of it. When we look at our Passover and we look at the events that occurred during the Passover, one of the things that you must understand with our forefathers and foremothers is that they had to endure with patience. They had to be patient. They put up with a lot of stuff, Mishpachah. The Hebrews put up with a lot of things. And I'm pretty sure day after day after day after day, when they realized that the promise wasn't coming, that they had to, cling to and embrace patience. They had to continue to be patient. Because when you begin to want to rush things and you want things to happen yesterday and they didn't happen yesterday, then the negative side of the forces come in and they prohibit you from being successful. And they prohibit you from making and meeting your mark that you desire for yourself. So you must be patient. You must be patient and don't become a patient. If you know what I mean. And what I mean is this. In the English language, I got this from thoughtcode.com. The word patience and patience are homophones. Homophones. What is that, Rabbi Kefa? They sound the same but have very different meanings. They sound the same. You say patience and patience. Yeah, it almost does sound the same, patience and patience. But they're two totally different words, right, Mishpachah? The noun patience refers to the ability to wait or to endure hardships for a long time without becoming upset. Wow. Remember I talked about the negative side of the forces? You can become upset. And then that can totally be a stumbling block in the way of you meeting your marks. You can't get wisdom and understanding when you're upset. You won't get it. You may get something that comes to you, but it won't be beneficial to where you're trying to go with your goals and your dreams and your desires if you're upset. How many of you know what I'm talking about? The universes and source energy cannot operate and give you and flow with that continuity of positive energy if you're upset. Can't happen. This is one of the the stumbling blocks with debates. And if you're married, believe me, you have debates. You may not see them as debates, but believe me, you are having debates. You're constantly having debates. And sometimes you have to agree to disagree, and sometimes you can come to an agreement. And sometimes you have to win to lose. Baruch Hashem. Look at the bigger picture. You see, you cannot be a great nation and not lose some battles. I can guarantee you, America is licking her wounds and still licking her wounds from Vietnam. Because with the understanding, how many of your parents were participated in Vietnam? Put up a capital V. No, my dad did. He went to Vietnam. And actually, my wife's dad did as well. And he's Chinese. He was fighting on Vietnam side. So I was like, hey, maybe you and my dad will shoot at each other at one time. Who knows? Who knows? But if when you look at Vietnam, that's one war that we came back and we didn't win. And then the soldiers came back and then they weren't treated properly. They weren't treated properly by the Americans when they came back, because the Americans had the concept that this war was not to be fought. Just look at the statements that came from Muhammad Ali, or Cassius Clay, which was his birth certificate name. He made statements like, look, the Viet Cong never did anything to me. Why am I go up there, pick up a gun, and try to fight them? I'm paraphrasing. So a lot of people had feelings about this war that we shouldn't even got into it. Well, to this day, we haven't won the war. The war hasn't been won. We didn't claim victory in Vietnam. So when you look at this great nation, you realize that, and I say this to say this, is that as a great person that you are, you got to realize is that you don't win every battle. Some battles you just... Okay, sorry about that, Mr. Bahas. Some battles you may just have to scrap. And it's just like, okay, we didn't win. Or we may have lost. We lost, okay? Lick our wounds, and we learn from the experience. These are learning experiences. You win and then you learn, right? But some battles you come out and you may not win. You must understand that going in, Mr. Bahas. Don't have the mindset that you're this perfect being and you do everything right. Because you'll find that the universe, is a source energy, has a way of humbling you, bringing you to a bad sound. It might sound coming in bad. The universe just has a way of humbling you, or bringing you to a point to where you can see, what is really important, or what is reality. You see, to connect, to be reborn, you must be connected to reality. That's very important. You have to see things, for what they are, and not what you want them to be, but see things for what they are. And, you honestly have to see, and see, a lot of folks don't want to face reality. And this is why religion is so popular. You see, because religion takes you outside of yourself into another realm. Like this realm called, what do they call it? The rapture realm. You get caught up in the rapture realm, my goodness. You're not connected to reality, because you're living this thing that's not based on anything that has been experienced before. But then you put that hope word, you put hope in these things. That to me is just another degrading and cuss word, in my opinion. When you begin to hope on things, then you definitely are not connected to reality in no way, shape, form, or fashion. But a lot of folks connected to these religions, because of the misteachings that are out there, the misunderstandings of the holy books, have embraced these things as their belief system. And that's just what happens. So this is why I encourage you and admonish you, family, we must continue to be as still as stone with our family members, loved ones, and friends that are still in there. And if you heard the blessing that Hakohen gave out to the whole of the world, look, if you celebrate Easter, happy Easter. I told a lot of people that. Tell my sister that, hey, happy Easter. Have a great Easter, Have a wonderful Easter. Enjoy yourself. See, I'm not here to condemn you and put you down for what you do not understand and for what you've been mistaught. That's not my place. My place is to tell you this. If you're happy celebrating Easter, then you go out and be the biggest Easter egg and find the golden egg and be the biggest Easter bunny that's out there, if that makes you happy, if that fully gives you peace. And let's face it, Mishpahah, you look at family members, friends, and loved ones, and you realize that a lot of them are very, very happy within their religion, right? So then you leave them to it. if they're happy with it. And then if they're not happy with it, believe me, they'll find you. But we need to be as still as stone and give them time to, give them, time to, find themselves and maybe find themselves through you as they come to you. You don't have to go to them. I've learned this lesson the hard way with our Kohen, is that, we don't have to take the Torah to nobody, no country, no person. Let that person that desires Torah to come and find the Torah. We're told in the holy books that if you seek the Torah, then you'll find the Torah, right? But so let them seek. Why do we have to go and present it to them on a silver plate, on a silver platter, and say, oh, here it is. Now you accept or reject it. No. Because you find out, and you'll find that you'll do more harm than good to the individual, not to ourselves, but to the individual, because then you put them on the spot to accept or reject something that they're not mature enough to do. They haven't become that child yet because they want to be adults. And so, they feel like their decision has to be right. They haven't come to that childlike mindset to where they can say, okay, let me sit down and listen to this, and then I can accept and reject it on my own right. Or that I can freely receive something without any doubt or any, second guessing, like, oh, okay, what do they really want behind the scenes? You know what I mean? These are things that we must consider going forward, is that we don't have to go out and give the Torah to anyone. Allow them to come to us. And believe me, they will, if you just sit there and be as still as stone. I tell you, now all my relatives, they want to come back to the Kefa ben Yahweh. Everybody wants to come back now. Before I was shunned, I was put down, I was considered demonic and evil and wicked. But now everybody wants to come to my bait, and I welcome them because, my forefather was Abraham, and he welcomed all. So I welcome all. All comers, come on. You're more than welcome to come. But I had to be as still as stone. This didn't happen overnight. This took years to come about. Because I rejected the church. I rejected the whole mandate of this rapture theory and, this, going to heaven and hell and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. All that fear factor stuff that just was preventing me from from facing reality, staring reality in the face and realizing I want my heaven now. I don't want to wait for later on. Well, for what? For what? No, heaven is now. Paradise is another day in paradise. It sure is. It is a day in paradise. But a lot of people can't see that. Because when you tell them that, they look at you like you're some kind of alien from Pluto. But it is another day in paradise, Mishpahah. Just be patient. I want to admonish the family to be patient. Our forefathers were patient, and those that weren't, we read about them in our holy books, in our history. What happened to them? They missed the mark. They missed the mark. Why? It's because they became impatient. They became angry. They became upset. They became irrational, to where they couldn't make the rational decisions. Why? Because they had no connection with reality. I tell you, when it becomes real, it's a revelation. And so when I tell you the story about my wife last night and watching the Ten Commandments of Charleston Heston, and she said, that's my life. She said, now I'm here in America and I'm free. Before I was in China and I couldn't feel these freedoms. In China they tell you, it's honorable just to work hard. For what? And then they have nothing to show for it. They work hard their whole life because that's what they taught, just to work hard. They have a work ethic that's second to none. The Chinese have a work ethic that's second to none. They work. Maybe this is why they, they're, second, the second greatest superpower out there. Wanting to be the first. And who how can you knock them for not wanting to be first? One country does not want to be first in line. I mean, every country should aspire and want to be great. Aspire greatness, right? Baruch Hashem. Why? Because they work at it. They work at it. They work. But they become such robots that they never have time for themselves and to think for themselves, to have a thought process. No, because the system thinks for you. No, we need to understand that we can think for ourselves. And in some instances, when we move on over to the West, it's the same thing. Religion has done the same thing. It's to tell you, no, you flow with the system. You don't think for yourself. You think with the collective. What the collective thinks is what we all think, and then that's what we roll with. And that's why we have this awesome religion that we have. But again, at the same time, when you look at the individuals in the collective, there's no growth, or there's no riches. They're just rags. But you see, those that are in positions of authority, they have all the riches. There's no trickle-down effect. You see, with the Torah, it's trickle-down effect. Everybody has wealth. Everybody has health. Everybody can prosper. Everybody can be infinitely abundant. This equal opportunity. And it's real. If you embrace it, if you really want it, because a lot of folks don't want it. So why are we going to go push something on folks that they don't want? They don't want the Passover. They want Easter. And I say, enjoy your Easter. They don't want the Passover. But they embrace and love their Easter. And they love Jesus, and they wait on him to come back, and I say, so be it. Keep waiting. But in the meantime, what are you doing while you wait? You see? And that brings me to this passage that we're going to read out of the book of Luke, that I think is very, very appropriate for this time. Luke chapter 8, you all know the parable. But let's get into it. Again, I read from the Abrahamic-Faith Bible. If you don't have the Abrahamic-Faith Bible, please get it, add it to your library, use it in your studies. It'll really enhance your studies and give you an opinion that's second to none from a Hebraic point of view, from a Kohen, Baruch Hashem. Luke chapter 8, we'll start at verse 5. And the sower went out to sow his seed. And as he sowed, some fell by the wayside, and it was trodden down. And the birds of the air devoured it. Look at verse 6. And some fell upon a rock. And as soon as it was sprung up, it withered away, because it lacked moisture. Take heed. Listen very closely, Mishpah. Look at verse 7. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns sprang up with it and choked it. Look at verse 8. And other fell on good ground, and sprang up and bare fruit 100-fold. And when he had said these things, he called out, he that has ears to hear, let him hear. I'm going to say that again. He that has ears to hear, let him hear. Look at verse 9. And his disciples asked him, saying, what might this parable be? Look at verse 10. And he said, to you, listen what he said to this. To you it is given to know the mysteries of the kingdom of Elohim. There are a lot of mysteries in here, Mishpah. To you it is given to know the mysteries. We have the ability to know the mysteries. To you it is given the ability to know the mysteries of the kingdom of Elohim. But to others in parables, that seeing they might not see, and hearing they might not understand. You see, this is what I've been saying for a while here, and I think it's important to understand, as I was taught by Hakohen as well, is that we have to guard our Torah. This Torah of Moshe needs to be guarded. We just don't give out all of our information to everybody. No, we give them little Torah golden nuggets here and there, see what they do with it. We just don't take this Torah. This is why we haven't been given the mandate to go out on some kind of Torah crusade. Some Knights of the Templars of the Torah. No, we don't need that. That's not our mandate, Mishpah. Don't get overzealous with this Torah. Be still as stone. Seeing that they might not see, and hearing that they might not understand. And this is what you find in religions today. Let's keep reading. Look at verse 11. Now, the parable is this. The seed is the word of Elohim. What's the word of Elohim? I tell you, when I go back to my testimony, I remember in that prayer closet, I remember, Shabba Shabba doing, speaking in tongues in the prayer closet, and the thing, that still small voice, when I got so tired of speaking in tongues, how you get to that point, for those of you who have experience speaking in tongues, you get to that point to where you can't speak in tongues anymore because you're so tired, and your mouth is tired, and your jaw's tired. How many have been there? Put up a capital T if you've been there with me. You used to do that. You speak Shabba Shabba do, and then you get so tired and you kind of want to pass out. You're exhausted. You woe out, so you just be quiet for a minute. You guys get a good laugh off that because that was a great experience that you had there, right? And it was in that quiet time when I was just quiet because I was just woe out. I was just literally tired. And I was in that dark closet, in the bathroom, in the closet. And I'm like, those words that came to me was the same words. Was the wheel, the seed of Elohim is the word of Elohim. What came to me was my will is my word. I was like, what the heck? I was like, okay, well, where do I find God's word? Just like in Luke chapter 8, verse 11. Now the parable is this, that the seed is the word of Elohim. The word of Elohim is the Torah. And I come to find that out. And all praise to source energy. All praise be to the Most High, the powers of Israel, that He directed me right to the Kohen. I didn't have to put up with some of this mishmash on you going through some of these hate groups, call themselves Hebrews and blah blah blah, Hebrew Israelites and da da da, and they're just nothing but hate groups, right, Prince? I didn't have to put up with that. I give glory to the Most High because I didn't have to deal with all of that mishmash. It took me right to source, took me right to the the priest of Israel, Book of Shem. Look at Luke chapter 8, verse 12. Those by the wayside are those that hear. Then comes the devil and took away the word out of their hearts, lest they should believe and be rescued. Who is this devil individual? He's not this creature that most people think. That's that logic inside of you. That's that thought process inside of you, that you can think your way out of prosperity. You can think your way out of abundance. I'm telling you, majority of the time, much credit is given to the evil one that he totally does not deserve. Totally does not deserve. So you see, the devil comes in and took away the word out of their hearts, lest they should believe and be rescued. What rescues you? The word of Elohim. Look at verse 13 of Luke chapter 8. They on the rock are they which when they hear receive the word with joy. And these have no root, which for a while believe, and in time of trial fall away. My goodness. We have witnessed that. I go ahead and kind of mention this in his lecture as well. We've witnessed this here in this Power Talk room, in this Power Talk forum. Well, folks come in, they receive the word with joy, and they believe for a little bit, but then as soon as the trial comes about, a new bit of understanding, a new revelation comes out from the Kohen that he gives us. Oh man, I can't agree with that. I'll give you one example of that. We're dealing with these, with the gays and those that are same gender. Oh my goodness. That we're supposed to love these people. We're supposed to have respect for these people and honor these people. They come from Elohim as well. Oh, that came out? Oh, people, oh no, the rabbi saying gays and same genders are going to see the kingdom of heaven and blah, 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 and blah. All the slander started, I tell you. So a lot of people left behind that. Instead of embracing the same gender, same orientation, however they like to be called, because I don't want to offend them in any kind of way. No. We can't love our neighbor as ourselves. We have to hate this particular group. We have to dispose of this group. We have to separate ourselves from this group. Is that the way to be? My goodness. This is one example. So this particular seed, they weren't rooted. weren't rooted. So in the time of trial, they fall away. They leave. Look at verse 14 of Luke chapter 8. And that which fell among thorns are they which, when they have heard, go forth, and are choked with the cares and riches and pleasures of this life, and bring no fruit to completion. Look at verse 15. I'm going to close with verse 15 of Luke chapter 8. But that on the good ground are they which in an honest and good heart, having heard the word, keep it and bring forth fruit. Bring forth what? The fruit of what? The fruit of patience. Remember, I told you this word patience is not mentioned anywhere in our Tanakh. Where actually it's mentioned one time in the Tanakh. I think that's in the book of Ecclesiastes, in the Tanakh. Chapter 7, verse 8, I think it's there. It's mentioned there one time in our Tanakh. In our Torah, not mentioned at all. Not the word patience itself. You see, what we have to guard against, Mishpahah, we have to guard against being, embracing patience or becoming a patient. Because what is a patient? Let's look at our definition that we see there in what is patient? What is a patient? We learned about what patience is according to thoughtcode.com. Patience refers to the ability to wait or to endure hardships for a long without becoming upset. Now we look at the Passover. We look at our Hebrews when they were brick makers there in Egypt. I guarantee you they had a lot of patience. But I guarantee you at some point, majority of them got upset because they never saw anything coming. They couldn't see, the light at the end of the tunnel. All they saw was the tunnel. And that tunnel was just, we're going to keep making bricks, and we're going to keep making bricks, and, we're going to bear children, and that's going to be their legacy. Brick makers. But thank goodness we had the Levites in it. We remind them who they are, who they really are. And that when the time comes, you just got to be patient. You got to be as still as stone. Do the necessary for now. Be as still as stone. And when the time comes, the time will come. And when that period comes, the period will come. Well, okay, what's this other patience? The noun patience. The noun patience is the plural form of patient, which is someone who receives medical care. Someone who has some kind of problem. Someone who has some kind of deficiency to where they need medical care. They have a health problem. They have some kind of problem. And as you all know, we don't have problems. We have the solution. Right, Mishpah? We don't have the problem. We have the solution. So don't make yourself a patient. But have patience, but don't make yourself a patient. Don't be a patient. It was, well, what do you mean by that, Rabbi Kefa? Don't focus on, I got this problem and that problem. Like Kohen was talking about, some people can't get on to that rebirth because all they're dealing with was a replay of their life. Oh, this happened to me in the past. And well, let's deal with it today so you can get reborn from within and begin to have that abundance of a life, however you want it, abundantly, more abundantly, with material wealth, health, prosperity, with a great social life, however you want it, Mishpah. That's how it can be. And that's how it will be once you're born from within. See, I don't get it. But when you look at it from a common sense point of view, when birth is given, what does it take place? It takes place within. It don't take place outside. I got to witness Nakshan being born. I tell you, that's one of the greatest days of my life, Mishpah. Seeing my son come out of my wife's womb. But birth comes from within. So why in religion they try to tell you that that birth takes place outside of yourself? Or just by saying these petty old statements and making these proclamations and being dipped in some water and come out of the water. I tell you, I've been dinked and dunked so many times, it's crazy. But my experience with the dinks and dunks, the reality on the ground is nothing came from that. Nothing materialized from that. And just like we're told there in Luca, chapter 8, verse 15. And nothing bore the fruit of anything. It wasn't fruitful for me. Nothing was fruitful for me. But understand this, it's a process. It's a process that needs to happen as we're affirming, as we're scripting, as we're visualizing. It's a process that needs to happen. Now, some things will come quickly for you magnet men and magnet women, while other things and other aspirations, your other desires may take more patience. More time. I don't like to use the word time, but more patience to where, you need to be still as stone. You need to be as still as stone. You just continue to do what you do. Continue to do, continue to do, continue to do. And when it comes, it comes. And you give thanks for it and you keep moving on. Because you've been anticipating. And when it comes, it comes. And you react just like you've been anticipating. Because you have been anticipating. And you move on to the next one. And you move on to the next one. But you be as still as stone. Don't get dismayed. Don't, like we see in the parable there, get caught up in all these other scenarios to where the sower throws seed and it doesn't fall on that good ground. And the trial comes and they fall away, or they wither away, or they choked out. No. Don't be none of that. You're on good ground, believe me. The word of Elohim is the seed, right? That's what we're told there in Luke chapter 8, verse 11. But I see the word of Elohim as the Kohen. He is the word of Elohim. Because you can read the word of Elohim and never understand it. And you'll get choked out. Or a trial will come and you'll fade away. You'll be happy to hear the word. But it doesn't sustain you. You'll be joyous to hear the word, but it won't sustain you. Because you hear it, but then, like Hakohen was talking about in his lecture, and it's very important to understand, is that you don't know how to apply it. You don't know how to use the word to be beneficial to you, to where the word can bring you abundance and increase and blessing. Because that's what it can do once you begin to understand how to take charge of the word and use it properly. And believe me, those 22 characters are powerful. And good things are just, great things that begin to happen all around you. And you give thanks for those great things. And you give praise to source energy, God, the God of Israel, whatever you want to call it. I like the way Charleston Heston said it in the movie of The Ten Commandments. He said, who do you represent? The kingdom of the Most High. Baruch Hashem. That's a moment in the movie that always gets me choked up. When Charleston Heston says that, he said, the kingdom of the Most High. My goodness. Powerful. Powerful indeed. So we look at that. We look at that. Bring forth the fruit of patience. Add that to your affirmations. I have the fruit of patience continuously. I definitely have the fruit of patience continuously. The fruit of patience. That's going to sustain you, Mishpah, in those times because you're on the good ground. And always tell yourself you're on the good ground because you are on the good ground. In those times where the famine may come. If the famine comes and there's no water, no worries because you're on the good ground. Let me tell you something about my garden in the backyard over here. I tell you, we're growing a lot of green. It's such a blessing to eat. For a Passover meal last night, I was eating vegetables from our garden in the backyard. That's wonderful. Some people call it a backyard, some people call it a garden. But my wife is back there growing all kind of things. What a blessing. I mean, spinach. I'm pie Hakohen. My wife, she grows so much spinach back there. It's growing like the beanstalk back there. The spinach. And we're just chugging down on spinach. I tell you, I'm pie the sailor. For real. a lot of spinach. But one thing I'll tell you about our garden in the back. A long time ago, I had plans to put an area. Yeah, I love spinach too. To put an area where we can do our baptismals in our backyard, you know, and in my garden. But those plans were changed. And what I did is during that project mode, is I took Hakohen Zizi. He gave me a Zizi, and I buried him in my garden. This is maybe close to 8 years ago. I buried him in my garden, and I covered up that area, and covered it up with dirt. And then now my wife, we put raising fruit and vegetables now in that area, and I'm telling you, fruit. San Antonio is hot as hell. I tell you, and our fruit is almost. It reminds me how the Garden of Eden would have been. Just growing like no man's business. I do believe Hakohen Zizis. I have his Zizis in my garden. I'm gonna tell you this. You can mock my words. I will never sell this or this one. Never do that. I'll have other properties and maybe rent this one out, but I will never sell this house. I will never do that. Never. Never, never, never will I do that. Because I understand the power that this land wields. And my neighbors next to me, to the left and right, I'm telling you, their backyards, their gardens look like the desert, Mojave Desert. And my garden is just as lush and green and growing all kind of things. And I'm like, Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. So I'm a watcher and a witness to many things, and I understand what good ground is. I really do understand what good ground really is. I continue to understand, but I'm understanding, and I'm moving from strength to strength when it comes to that understanding of what good ground really is. And when you're at the feet of the Kohen, that's the best ground out there, where you're going to grow and you're going to develop and you're going to be able to be fruitful. You're going to be fruitful from strength to strength to strength to strength. When we look at our Passover, how did the Hebrews get out? Did they throw a rebellion? Did they have a protest and Pharaoh just let them out? They made all of these billboards and said, Pharaoh, we want to go. We want to go. Say no to Pharaoh. And then Pharaoh just let them go? No, it was by the hand of who? The Levites, the priesthood. Think about that for a minute. It's the priesthood in the face of Pharaoh telling them, look, you're going to let our people go. You're going to let our people go, or the plagues are going to keep coming. Plagues are going to keep coming. You're going to let our people go. But Moses and Aaron stayed still as stone with their belief system, being sowers of Elohim, sowers of that great seed that in the end freed the Hebrews. Baruch Hashem. I would encourage you all to be patient, to exhibit patience and not become a patient, to where you have sedition that's hindering you or a stumbling block. They put a stumbling block in your way from preventing you from the fruits of patience. You can meet your marks, you can meet your desires, and fulfill your dreams. In this life, Mishpahah, not some life to come. No, we're talking about right now. All of you have things that you want and you desire for yourself, and there's nobody on the face of this earth that cannot have them. That you cannot have them. But it all boils down to what you believe. If you believe you can have perfect health, then you will have perfect health. If you believe that you can have insurmountable wealth and riches, then you can have insurmountable wealth and riches. You got to see it. You got to visualize it. You got to see it. And you got to understand that you're on the good ground. Be patient. Be patient. Because you got to understand, when you sow a seed on good ground, does that seed come up right away? I submit to you not. It goes through stages. different stages. And it needs proper care. You need to care for that seed. And that's what we get at the feet of the Kohen. We get that care, that proper care. Not shaming you, rubbing you down, putting you under the bus and condemning you. No. They're telling you, you can do it. You can have it. You can be it. You are it. Now let's make it. I'm here for all my family members. Because I understand this life that we've given it is truly a blessing. And it is a gift from God. It is definitely a present. Because we stay in the present. We stay present. We look at the past for experience and for lessons to learn as we keep moving forward with whatever we desire for ourselves. So in this Passover season that we're in right now, I would encourage you all to remember that mission, to embrace patience, to make patience a part of your very being as you continue to do the necessaries, the techniques, the strategies that are going to help you be happy, be joyous, be at peace, be at love with one another, be in love with yourself, and you're going to see, just like a magnet, you're going to attract things that you believe in and that you want, and that you're going to see it. It's going to come to you. You don't have to go hunt it down. It's going to come right to you. Opportunity's going to come. Relationship's going to come. Relationship with, human beings, relationship with money, relationship with health, wealth, prosperity, all that's going to come, if that's what you desire. You're going to attract it. Just like a magnet. Believe me. And if you don't believe me, believe yourself. Believe yourself. Remember, good ground. Rabbi Kefa said, I'm on good ground. Now you say it. I am on good ground. You're on good ground, Mishpah. A lot of folks don't like the good ground. They like it rocky. But some folks just don't like good ground. And so be it. But realize this, you are on good ground. Don't ever tell yourself you're not. You're going to grow and sprout into that wonderful flower like you see yourself. Why? It's because good ground, time is irrelevant because we have so much patience. We're so patient. Let's go to Ecclesiastes. I think we should go there and read that for a minute. Ecclesiastes is quite interesting when I read this, because I thought, I was like, my goodness. Ecclesiastes chapter 7. And this whole chapter is very interesting, because it's talking about a state of how you see things within your own being. Look at Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 8. Better is the end of a thing than the beginning. Wow, that's a statement. Better is the end of a thing than the beginning. And the patient in ruach, in spirit, is better than the proud in ruach, in spirit. Continue to be patient. And the other P word, proud, leave that alone. And I say that with all humility. You see, it's pride that leads to the fall, is what we're told in the holy books as well, right? Better is the end of a thing than the beginning. How many of you can say amen to that? Because we look forward to the beginning. To the end. In the beginning, I was getting my diaper changed in the beginning, but I look forward to the end. When that affirmation is complete, Baruch Hashem, I move on to the next one. I look forward to that. I look forward. I anticipate. But most folks, right? Well, they say, in the beginning I had this problem. You see, this is what they do to themselves. They live in the past instead of looking forward. Better is the end of a thing than the beginning. Well, Rabbi, you don't know how it started out for me. Well, so what how it started out? How's it going to end for you? You see? They say this in the investment. It's not how the market opens, it's how the market closes, right, Eddies? Isn't that what they say? It's not how the market opens, it's how the market closes. That's what's important. See, the market may open and it may be crash landing. The market's tanking. But it's not how the market opens, it's how the market closes. That's what's important. How are you going to close? Are you going to close strong? How are you going to close? And that the end of the last verse of Ecclesiastes chapter 7 is quite interesting as well. Shabbat Shalom Nashad and all his glory. Shabbat Shalom, my son. It says this, Ecclesiastes chapter 7 verse 29. Behold, this only have I found, that Elohim has made man upright, but they have sought out many inventions. My goodness. This is where it comes into play right here with humanity, Mishpah. We all created from the unseen God, from source, from powers. Elohim made us all, Mishpah. We must understand that. This is why I tell you, be patient with folks. Be still as stone. Because at the end of the day, you can't run around here hating people that Elohim created. You have to realize, just like Ecclesiastes 27, chapter 7, verse 29 is telling us that, but they have sought out many inventions. My goodness. Has not man created many inventions for themselves? Invented all these different religions, invented all these different technologies, invented all these different ideas that have pulled them away from their true essence that Elohim has established from the very beginnings of beginnings, had brought forth. So it's very important that we understand. I love that verse in Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 29. Behold, this only have I found, that Elohim has made man upright. Well, from what our Kohen's telling me, there's folks running around here telling that men are sending chicken dinners and that they're going to hell and they're going to bust hell wide open. Well, that's totally not the case. That's counter to what we're told in our Tanakh, right? Men are made in the image of Elohim, in the image of the unseen God, to be upright. Be upright. So then what happens? The inventions of men come in. And I'm paraphrasing. What happens is what we're told there in Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 29 there. That's what we're told there. You see? But they have sought out many inventions. That's what happens, Mishpah. We just need to go back to the forever ways, like we're told in Jeremiah 6:16. The forever ways. The ancient ways of our forefathers. That's it. And in those ways, there are so many interventions that, my goodness, our hands are full. Our plate is overflowing. And we can keep moving from strength to strength to strength to strength to strength to strength. To strength to strength. Better is the end of a thing than the beginning. Here's the question I have for you today in closing. How do you want it to end? How do you want it to end? You want it. And then end it that way. Baruch Hashem. Don't worry about how it started. Who cares? Well, Rabbi, my family started with nothing. Does that mean you have to end with nothing? Hell no. And come Shiloh or Sheol, nothing can stop you but yourself. And how you think. It doesn't have to end the way it began. So don't focus on the began, but concentrate on how you want it to end. And manifest that. Being still a stone while you're doing it. Don't be swayed. Like we read there in Luca, don't let the devil come in and creep in on you. And the devil's inside of you, Mishpah. Don't look for him coming at you with some horns and say, hey, come on over here, Prince. Let's go and have a Starbucks together. Come on, we'll take your Starbucks. We'll have some tea and some coffee and some cakes. And let me tell you how I'm gonna bring you down instead of raise. Nope, that's all within. The devil's within you. Don't look for him coming at you with some kind of horns, man. He come at these horns carrying a pitchfork. That's not how it goes down, Miss Baha. It's just totally not how it goes down. But the devil's within, destroying you. There's that mind, that ego, telling you, oh, this is the way it's going to go. Oh, you're never going to be nothing. Oh, let's focus on that beginning. Your beginning is your end. No. Your end is where you begin. Baruch Hashem. How do you want it to end? That's the beginning of all your thought. All of your energy is placed on how do you want it to end. And that's why you affirm it. That's why you script it. This is what I want for my ending. I want a new house. I want those houses. I want properties. I want cars. A great business. I want to be a success in the stock market. I want to be a successful investor. That's how it's ending for me. I want to be an awesome husband. I want to be a loving and loyal wife. You know, what do you want? I want to be perfect health. I want infinite abundance. You see, what do I want? I want continuous joy. I want to be definitely forever. Baruch Hashem. What do you see? Let's end it. End it. Don't worry about beginning it. Let's end it. Let's end it, Mishpah. It is the end that is most important, Mishpah. We, everyone in this room, everyone listening, on Facebook or on the, we all come from different beginnings, right? What does that matter? How do you want it to end? And this is where we get assistance from our Hakoim to help us meet our ending, how we want it to end. Leaving a legacy definitely and continuously forever. I'm leaving Nakshan a legacy forever that he's going to be able to pass on to his children, his children's children, and his children's children, children's children's children, children's children. Baruch Hashem. That's what I'm leaving. I tell you. What are you going to leave? What are we leaving? So consider that going forward as we celebrate, our festival of protection, our festival of rescue, the Passover, Baruch Hashem. We have the protection. Baruch Hashem. We have the protection. Now, so what are we to be afraid of? If we have the protection, what do we fear? We don't fear anything. You know, I was watching that Charleston Heston movie. I was like, man, what finally brought Pharaoh to his knees was death. He feared the death of his son, and guess what happened? Took him right at his heart. Took his heart out. Took his son away from him. Boom. He's like, man, y'all get out of here, man. Just get out. Take what y'all want and just leave, man. Y'all broke me. So we don't fear anything. We had a protection. So let's just go out and meet our mark. Shalom, Nashan. Come, Daddy. Okay, Daddy, finished. What do you want to tell him? We're leaving now. Oh, no, Sean is 18 months. Yes, what do you want to tell him, son? What do you want to tell him now, Sean? Well, while we leave out, we getting ready to leave. You tell him bye-bye. Say bye-bye. Say Shabbat Shalom. Say have a wonderful Shabbat. You know, tell him that? In all his glory. This miracle is right here. This miracle this is the end right here. You see? The end product is not shown. Baruch Hashem. So we give thanks always. And I want you all to have a awesome 6 days of labor ahead as you continue to be students of this Torah, students of humanity, and continue to go out and do great, continuously doing great and marvelous things for humanity. Baruch Hashem. We give thanks always for all of you, Mishpah. We're family, and that's how we roll. Ya'el woman tells you Shabbat Shalom, Nakshan. What do you want to say? Nakshan is still a stone. He learns quickly from his father. Still a stone, huh, Nakshan? What do you want to say, my son? So we're going to go play in the garden, huh, Nakshan? Okay. I love you, and I leave you in the mighty hands of the Most High. under the umbrella of HaKohen in the gate. Shabbat Shalom, Shalom, Shalom. Over to you, HaKohen.
Todah for that, Rabbi Kefa. And I wish you all a happy festival today, and because it's it's going to continue for us for a week, and for others I guess it's about to finish, and then I leave you with that, and happy Passover to you over there, Nakshan, and to your family, Mom, Dad, and everybody else. Baruch Hashem for you there, and we'll see you next week. Have a great day today, and have a great week ahead. Todah, Shabbat Shalom, Gadol, and Shalom Shalom.